See, look, there's your many times great grandfather. Oh, hey there. I didn't see you come in. Pumpkins are often associated with autumn and Halloween. From pumpkin bread to pumpkin pie, so many of our recipes for pumpkins take advantage of its sweet flavor profile. But what if we were to try something a little bit different? Stick around, and we'll talk about the origins of this humble cucurbit. I even plan to make a savory and delicious recipe for pumpkins. No, not this one. That's another episode. This one. I'm Chase W. Beck. I have a doctorate in anthropology. I enjoy studying plant remains from archaeological sites, but what I love is cooking. Today, I'm sharing some of my favorite recipes with you on Dr. Beck's Epicurean Delights. Today we'll be making stuffed pumpkins. The first thing that you will need is a small pumpkin like this one. I asked specifically for a pie pumpkin. These pumpkins are used to extract the flesh to make pumpkin pie. It's a little sweet, but also less stringy than the larger ones. You also need some sausage, some country sausage or a good breakfast sausage. You're going to need some eggs as well. Not this many, but we'll get to the amounts later. You're also going to need a little bit of heavy whipping cream. You could use any kind of dairy, like milk or buttermilk. It's just something to help loosen up the eggs. And then some cheese. I chose a nice gruyere because it's got a lot of flavor and a good pull. And then some nutmeg. I don't think I'll use this entire nut, maybe just about half or a quarter of that. Instructions for making Dr. Beck's stuffed pumpkin. First, preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 163 Celsius, 436 Kelvin. Carefully remove the top of the pumpkin using a fairly stiff serrated knife. Use the same knife to cut around the inside flesh of the pumpkin to loosen up the seeds and pumpkin guts. Using a stiff metal spoon, scoop out the seeds and guts of the pumpkin, leaving the majority of the flesh of the wall of the pumpkin. To determine how much filling to use, fill the empty pumpkin with water and then pour the water into a large measuring cup. The level of the water in the cup will indicate how much filling to prepare. Crack the eggs into a large bowl and mix vigorously with the milk. Add 1 cup of the gruyere, reserving the last 1/2 cup for topping later. Add the ground nutmeg and the sausage. Mix thoroughly. Pour mixture into the pumpkin vessel. Top with the remaining 1/2 cup of cheese. Next, add the lid on top and place on a baking sheet. Bake on the middle rack of the oven until the flesh of the pumpkin becomes soft, approximately 50 minutes to 1 hour. Slice and serve. To seed this pumpkin, you're going to need a strong serrated knife, one that's not too flexible. You're going to have to cut an opening in the top. You're going to get a little resistance. As you can see, I'm struggling here just to get it started going. One of the techniques that you need to be aware of is to kind of move it up and down in a sawing motion, and that should help you get through the rind of the pumpkin. A good thing to also keep in mind is the placement of your other hand holding onto the pumpkin so that you do not cut into that hand. You have to keep it safely away from the cutting edge of the blade as you're sawing back and forth, back and forth. The other end of the knife could also poke through the pumpkin if you're not careful about its location. So once you have the lid off, you scrape out some of the seeds in there from the lid. See, I'm trying to pick up a seed from the cutting board and being unable to do it, so I just give up. It's also nice to run the knife around the inside of the pumpkin here as you're just getting started out to loosen up some of the fleshy fibers in there holding on to the seeds. And then once you have that, grab yourself a nice sturdy spoon and start scraping it out. We're trying to get the soft fleshy parts, but we're going to leave most of the rind in there because that's all tasty and good eating. And so we want to keep that while removing all the seeds and the really soft parts from the pumpkin. It's good to be thorough on this. You don't want to leave in any disgusting bits. And there you have it. A nice clean pumpkin with a lid that fits perfectly on top, and now we're all set to begin stuffing. Our next step is to grate some cheese. Let me just get the packaging off of this gruyere. I think it's about 8 ounces of gruyere. And gruyere is a mild cheese, a little bit harder than mozzarella, a little bit more flavor. It's a French cheese. They usually use it to make a croque monsieur. I find that it goes almost perfectly with this recipe, but you can use just about anything you want. You could probably stuff a pumpkin with just about anything you want. While I finish grating this cheese, let me tell you a little bit about pumpkins. In Chomicki et al. 2020, pumpkin appears as a name given to 2 separate species, Cucurbita argyrosperma, formerly Cucurbita mixto, and Cucurbita pepo. Hey, what gives? How can 2 different plants both be called pumpkin? Well, this is a problem that occurs when it comes to differentiating between common names, which are often based on physical characteristics like color and shape, and scientific names, which are arrived at today more often through complex genomic, i.e. DNA studies. In fact, if we consult Michael Mee's 1990 article, The Domestication of Cucurbita, Cucurbitaceae, in Economic Botany, we'll find that he applies the term pumpkin to no fewer than 4 species: Cucurbita argyrosperma, Cucurbita pepo, Cucurbita maxima, and Cucurbita moschata. So which one is the real pumpkin? Well, I'll have to get into that more in a later episode, but let's just say they all are, because they are all capable of producing an orange, round, fleshy fruit that you and I would recognize as a pumpkin. Now you might be wondering why I'm pouring water into this pumpkin. It's going to help me measure the volume of stuffing that I'm going to want to put in. That way I can mix it all up in a mixing bowl before adding it to the pumpkin. Botany Minute. Cucurbita maxima produces the largest and heaviest fruits known to man. These are the giant pumpkins you see popping up every year in competitions. Cucurbita pepo sometimes gives them a run for their money. However, Cucurbita maxima currently holds the record of world's heaviest and largest fruit. Matthias Willemens is the man responsible for producing such a large fruit. It weighed in at 2,624.6 pounds, or 1,190.49 kilograms. He accomplished this feat in 2016. Back to the cooking, I've added about 4 eggs here and just a splash of milk. I decided to go with milk instead of heavy whipping cream, and now I'm adding a cup of that shredded gruyere from before, mixing it all together really well, taking out everything that fell in that might not need to go in there. And now I should be just about ready. Here I'm adding the nutmeg. I grate in maybe about a teaspoon worth of nutmeg. There it goes. And I should be ready to add the sausage here next. I'm going to get this added in and then stir it up really well, and then fill the pumpkin. Archaeology alert! Cucurbita pepo, which produces the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins we all enjoy, was also a staple of the ancient southeastern Native American diet known as the Eastern Agricultural Complex, or EAC for short. These particular pumpkins were not bred for their fleshy, edible rinds, but rather their oil-dense seeds. The pumpkin is now full and just about ready for the oven, but I'm going to add another handful of gruyere right on top. That'll help it get nice and ooey-gooey while it cooks. About 50 minutes to an hour later, the pumpkin is ready. Let's take a moment to enjoy our accomplishments. There it is. A beautifully stuffed pumpkin full of sausage, egg, cheese. Sure looks good. I bet it tastes even better. I'm gonna slice myself up a piece to try it out. Just like that, you have a wonderful way to enjoy pumpkin as a savory dish rather than a sweet one. Let's see how it tastes. First, I'm going to try the pumpkin by itself. It's nice and tender. It's picked up some of the flavor of the sausage, the egg and cheese, and nutmeg. I'll try another bite with the stuff. They go great together. The pumpkin is still sweet. It offers a nice complement to the savoriness of the sausage and cheese without overpowering it. It really is a wonderful combination. I encourage you to try it out yourself. See what you think. See if you can find another way to enjoy pumpkin this holiday. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you come back again to learn more next time on Dr. Beck's Epicurean Delights.